House of EdTech, Episode 18.
I'm Miles, and you're listening to the House of EdTech with my daddy, Chris Nitty.
The House of EdTech podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get your free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/House of EdTech. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Christopher Nessie. The House of EdTech podcast explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. My objectives include discussing technology that is changing our classrooms and schools, sharing information that you can hear about today and use tomorrow, by talking to teachers, leaders, and creators like you, and having them share their stories. Because whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way we teach and how our students learn. And welcome back to another episode of the House of EdTech. Holy cow, it is August 31st as I release this episode. So either you are in the process of finishing your summer vacation, or you're listening to this later and you're back at school. Either way, I hope you have had an exciting and relaxing summer, and that you are ready to go and are recharged for the 2014-2015 school year, wherever you are. Coming up in this episode, as usual, I have some really great content. I'm looking forward to sharing my conversation with Jeff Bradbury from teachercast.net. I have my EdTech thought, my EdTech recommendation, which you do not want to miss, especially if you are into fantastic presentations. You are definitely going to want to make sure you get this episode's recommendation. And of course, as we all know, no episode of this podcast is complete until I announce the House of EdTech VIP. And it's a great educator in this episode. Not that any of the previous VIPs have been bad, but this is a really, really good one, as are all the rest. If this is your first time listening to the House of EdTech podcast, welcome. You just got the description. You understand a little bit about what the program's all about. And I thank you for stopping by and checking out this podcast. And I hope that you take the time to go back and listen to previous episodes, and that you'll be a listener from now on. So welcome aboard, and I guess we can get started. Actually, no, we can't. Before I get to my conversation with Jeff, I do have a couple of announcements. First, in the last episode, I let you guys know that I was attending Teach Meet New Jersey, and that took place on August 18th, 2014. Down at the Richard Stockton College of New Jersey. And I just want to give a shout out to Kyle and Liz Calderwood, who put on one awesome conference. It was a great, great day of learning. And it was no lie. It was truly the speed dating of professional development. It had the feel of an unconference, but it also had the feel of speed dating. Not that I have any experience with speed dating, but it was a great day of learning, and one of the highlights from my day that day was that I got to meet Dr. Spike Cook, who appeared in episode 16 of the podcast when I talked to the principal from Millville, New Jersey. So you're going to want to go back and check out that episode if you missed it. And Spike couldn't have been a nicer guy in person, and it was nice to really make that face-to-face connection, shake his hand, and also stand behind him in line for lunch, which was pretty cool. Not gonna lie. And my second announcement, congratulations are in order. I would like to congratulate Karina Gonzalez, who, if you'll recall, she appeared on episode 4 of the podcast, and she is a high school librarian, and she shared some awesome tools related to the library and also some great Google tools. Congratulations to Karina, as she is expecting the birth of twins. She already has a daughter, but she's got twins coming sometime in the near future. So Congratulations to Karina, and I can't wait for 2 more House of EdTech listeners to enter the world. With that being said, let's head on into this episode's featured content and my conversation with Jeff Bradbury of TeacherCast.net. Jeff Bradbury teaches at North Brunswick Township High School here in New Jersey. He teaches music theory, music history, and conducts the high school orchestra, which he is very proud of. Jeff earned his bachelor's and master's degrees from Westchester University in Pennsylvania. In his free time, and I don't know how much of that there is, Jeff also enjoys playing the violin, conducting, web design, and podcasting. Now, I've mentioned his site and network previously here on the podcast, which is TeacherCast.net, where he blogs and creates audio and video podcasts about education and education technology. And, if that wasn't enough, he's also a relatively new daddy to the world-famous edu-triplets, Robert, Sarah, and Chris. I would now like to welcome officially to the House of EdTech a former VIP, Jeff Bradbury. How you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing wonderful. Who was that person that you just introduced? Thank you so much for that. How are you doing today, Chris?
I am fantastic. Summer is winding down, and I guess school is about to heat up.
I'm really looking forward to this school year. It's been a great summer. Right now, I'm kind of wrapping up the summer by getting our school website and all the lesson plans and stuff ready to go, and looking forward to that day when kids start to walk in.
Every teacher has a unique story about their choice to enter into education. Share a little bit about your story.
You know, it's one of those things that I never really thought about. It's one of those things that I never planned on doing, and I think that's kind of why it works. I mean, most teachers, well, I would say a lot of teachers, if you ask, you know, there wasn't option B. It's I'm a teacher. I was born to be a teacher. I love working with other people. I love helping, da-da-da-da-da. Teaching was my calling. And for me, it's very similar in that, you know, I always wanted to be a music something, and going through high school, auditioning for colleges, you had 2 options. You could go into music performance, or you can go into music education. And I knew that I didn't want to go in as a music performer. I wanted to do something a little bit bigger and a little bit more. So, you know, we went into music education, and I went into Westchester as a music education student and had the time of my life. Been teaching ever since. It's an amazing process here, and I love the fact that you get a chance to see, especially in you know, as a music teacher, I get to have 9th graders walk in, and then I get to have them leave as 12th graders, and it's an amazing 4 years when you have that. But it's really cool to watch the kids grow up.
What's your area of expertise?
Well, I'm the director of orchestras, so we concentrate on, violins, violas, cellos, and basses. And in addition to that, we do music theory, we do some singing in there. But I really try to get the kids to think outside their comfort level and really get them to open up. As they're opening up as humans, we're trying to open themselves up as musicians and really get them to take some personal risks with their instruments. We always say if you can't sing it, you can't play it. And a lot of kids come in and they're very, very shy, or they're very, very closed. And as soon as we get them open and moving, then suddenly the sound of the orchestra decides to grow a little bit bigger. And really, that's where you get that growth and development.
That's fantastic. It just hurts me a little bit because I think I can sing, but I really can't. And nor do I play but a few notes on a keyboard. So I did not have that experience.
It's an amazing thing to be in that music scene, and that's why we always suggest to kids, grab a club or an activity or stick to music or drama or something, but build those relationships, learn how to network, learn how to really expand your horizons. And I even go a step and say, look, if you know that you want to do something in life, in high school, do something different. In high school, I was part of the newspaper club, and I worked in newspaper, and I was on the bowling team, and I knew that I was going to be a music person, so I tried to do everything else in addition to, but just so I can kind of experience things. And then when I got into college, it was heavy music, but then I found myself as the president of our fencing club. And I was still bowling at the time, and then I became the treasurer of like our sports club council. So it was my responsibility to take over this like $750,000 budget for all the sports clubs. But by doing that, I didn't realize it, but that was actually training me on how to make an orchestra budget and how to be the non-educator part of the educational positions.
Exactly, and money is obviously crucial to what we do.
Absolutely.
Now, when you're in the music classroom, what are some ways, and I know you, and anybody who's listening to this who does know you knows you're big into technology. What are some ways that you integrate and leverage technology in the music curriculum with your students? Oh,
there's tons of ways. You have to realize that we've been using technology far before anybody else was. We can go way back to 1812 when our metronome came out, and that's the little box that goes tick, tick, tick. I mean, that thing came out, again, 1812. That's technology. Using a device to help what you do is no different than getting an iPad or a laptop or something like that. So we've been using technology for hundreds of years. More modern time, I mean, even in high school and even, 5 or 6 years ago, to purchase a metronome, you're talking anywhere between $15 and $45. Now the kids can get those things for free. To get a tuner for their instrument usually meant getting a generic device that, again, was, $30, $40, and it had a generic sounding tone. Well, now for free, you can get an app on your specific instrument that's going to be playing back your specific tone of your chosen instrument. So technology has completely helped out our kids learn how to enhance their learning. I always consider myself a teacher, but I far more consider myself a coach. Teaching the kids how to take advantage of the technology that's in front of them is amazing. The fact that right now they've got access to every piece of music out there in the world for free by going to some of these sites that just have PDFs on them is something that, it wasn't accessible a couple years ago. So being able to not only use the technology, but know that the technology out there exists has completely transformed the stuff that my kids are able to do.
What are some of the specific programs or apps that your students use that you know of or that you recommend to them?
Well, there's again, as a music theory teacher, we're kind of stuck right now because a lot of the theory stuff is either heavy college level or it's basic elementary. I call it Freddy the Frog does theory, but it's really difficult these days to find proper high school level stuff. And if you are out there watching and you have a good high school theory curriculum, please find me online at TeacherCast, and I'd love to connect with you guys. But there's some good sites out there, like musictheory.net is a big one. One of the sites that I'm constantly checking over and exciting about, honestly, is iTunes. There's so much great free content that's going up on iTunes as either teacher or professional made podcasts, and also the great stuff that's coming out on iTunes University is phenomenal. And then, the other easy one to talk about, and this is the given, is sites like YouTube. For every school that says YouTube is bad and gives 9 reasons why YouTube is bad, I just cringe at that and say every single orchestra is up on YouTube playing every single piece. Why are you taking that away from our kids? Those sites empower kids to learn and go be explorers. Leave it up again to Apple and Google, but those are the sites that I send my kids to.
Are your students able to take advantage of resources like YouTube in school where you are, or do you promote or have them do projects where they're putting up their creations?
We do a little bit of both. There's, even though we've extended the schedule to, we're about like 52 to 55 minute classes right now, there's still just not enough time to take 20 minutes out of a class sometimes and watch a full piece. So in order to help them out with that stuff, we keep a good class website. We ask questions about it. They have to take a quiz on it or, a little Google form. So there are ways to enhance students' learning through technology like that. And it's also important for them to understand that this stuff is out there.
In terms of your instruction and how you prepare, what are some of the technologies that you leverage, just you as the teacher?
A few years ago, the reasoning behind me creating TeacherCast and then creating the TeacherCast podcast really was a way to harness the community. It was a way for me to bring experts on to a show and for me to have a forum to ask those questions. And, my whole thing with this is, if I don't know something, I'll just create a show. And I'm a big believer that every teacher should be able to go out there and create something or find their own learning. I'm not a big reader. I'm not a big writer. But I love to have conversations and I love to communicate. So for me to listen to a podcast or to create a podcast, that's one of the things that I do to learn how to help out my kids. I'd rather bring you on and ask you, how does your app work, or how do I do this or that? One, it's amazing to sit there and meet these people who are creating things. I'm never going to be able to talk to Mozart, but I have a good opportunity when I sit down with somebody like Microsoft and talk to them about how they're making products. So it's a really neat way to learn from that. And I can't do more than encourage every teacher out there to be creative.
What are your go-to apps that you use?
Wow, there's a lot of them. Evernote. Absolutely. I believe every educator should be on Evernote. It is the free place to collect and organize everything. Anytime my administrators send me something, a PDF, a handbook, or whatever, I immediately junk the email and I throw the attachments into Evernote. Hands down, it's a free app. There is a paid upgrade for like $45 a year, but it is absolutely the best thing I think that's out there. Other go-to apps, we're all going Google, and there are a ton of Google add-ons. And all you have to do is go into your Google Drive, and then you hit new, and you can find hundreds of free things. I was just doing a post on a great online video editor called WeVideo, and you can have your kids creating online movies for free. And so there's a lot of neat things. If you look under Google, or if you look under your Google app settings, under Google add-ons, there's a lot of good stuff in there. And so definitely take a look at that. I'm a big fan of Apple products, so you'll see me running Final Cut Pro daily. I love using Keynote. And, I'll give the obvious one here, but I find more than enough content every day on Twitter.
It makes me feel good as somebody who is a proponent of EdTech integration that I do use all the same tools. You're actually the reason that I'm more heavy into Evernote, because I got to see you do a presentation on it at EdCamp New Jersey last fall. So public shout out to you for that. And I think do you use the paid upgrade to Evernote?
Absolutely. But, for no other reason than it takes all of your documents and then reads them for you. So, let's say that your school handbook is 150 pages. All you have to do is go in there and type in the word locker, and it goes to the exact page in that document where it talks about student lockers and student responsibilities or whatever it looks like. I mean, it's an amazing tool. And the fact that it works well on mobile and desktop, it's great.
I agree. And I remember the coolest thing that you showed us in that session was that I believe if you put in pictures that have words, like say it's a picture of a street sign or just anything with words, Evernote can read the words in a picture. And we've mentioned it before. You are the founder of TeacherCast.net. So in my mind, you are one of these education rock stars because you created something that is so useful, not just to people in New Jersey, but it's popular across the country. It's popular, I imagine, worldwide. What was your inspiration for creating TeacherCast in the first place?
I was one of those people, who was using technology before everybody else was using technology. And people in my school district started looking at me going, well, what are you using your iPad for? What are you using your phone for? What apps do you have? How are you using these things? What kind of activities are your kids doing? If I give you 6 or 7 websites to go to, you're probably going to look at one. Maybe you look at the email and say, I don't have time for this, I'll do it later. But if I gave you one direction and I said, check this one site out, it's going to have everything that you need on it, the odds are better that you'll go there. And so I came up with this concept of let me just put my ideas down. You know, people are asking what apps I'm doing. I'll start writing about all that stuff. But at the time, I was also podcasting with a guy from California who does Mac-based podcasts. It was called Your Mac Show. And the concept behind Your Mac Show is I'm going to open up my Apple, and every single button that's on the dashboard, I'm going to do a screencast on it. I'm going to teach you how every single button works. And, you know, the concept basically came out of just copying those things and gearing it towards education. So, you know, can I make a website that has all of my stuff and then let's do this podcast and then... But the neat part is, you know, the questions that my teachers were asking me of how do I do things were the same questions that every teacher was asking. You know, how do I use this, or how do I do that, or what tools are good out there? And so because it has this universal effect of how do I do things, it just kind of started to expand. And then, of course, you know, when you're podcasting, that brings more traction and that brings more eyes to your channel. And the next thing you know, it's bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know, I will always tell people it's a personal website. I do it for myself. I do it so I can help out my teachers. But the neat part about it is everybody's going to take advantage of it because all the content there is what I consider evergreen. So it can be used for any teacher, any subject level. And we had our 3rd birthday on July 11th, and we're doing some pretty cool things. We spent the last few months completely redesigning it, and with the help of an amazing graphic designer, we now have a brand new look to it, and it's doing really well. I think last time I checked, there's this thing called the Teach 100 that's kind of cool to follow. It doesn't really mean very much, but like last February or so, I was somewhere in like the 600s or something like that, and like this morning I was down to 65. So you can kind of tell the global recognition and the global acceptance of the work that we're putting in here. And I do say we. You know, it's right on the front of the page. It's a place for teachers to help other teachers. And so when you have people coming in and guest posting on it and being a member of one of the podcasts or being a guest on the show or contributing an app review, it really is a place for other teachers to help out other teachers. It's kind of cool.
And I believe in it 100%. I've talked a little bit about, I mean, I know I'm the graphic designer that you talk about. And it's been really fun to work with you this summer to revamp the look and the flow and really just how TeacherCast works. Can you talk a little bit about the programming for those that don't know? What does TeacherCast offer for my listeners who are going to go there and say, oh, I've never been here before?
Sure. We started with one concept of let's bring some teachers on and do a roundtable show. So over the years, we just completed our 107th roundtable podcast, and it's all teachers, it's administrators, we've had superintendents on, and it's topic based. You know, what do you want to talk about today? Let's talk about flipped learning, or let's talk about student achievement. And so we have over 100 and some roundtable style podcasts up there, but teachers wanted to also know about the apps that they're using. And so we decided to create a show called the TeacherCast App Spotlight, which is really a commercial, but that's where I bring the app developer on, and we spend 15 minutes. It's a really short show, but we do it as a demonstration. So the app developer comes on and does a demonstration of how to use their app. And like I said, it is commercial based, but it really is meant for the user to listen to it or look at it or have their screen open while they're watching the view. And so that's called the App Spotlight. On Sundays, we actually do a live show that it's called the Tech Educator Podcast. And, it's live every single Sunday night on teachercast.tv. And, those are, again, demonstration-based tech things. We've been focusing recently on Google and the new Google Drive features. And so we have the Tech Educator Podcast for there. And then we've also branched out into online courses and helping people not just to do a single screencast, but really taking their hand and walking them through the beginning stages of an app to the completion of an app. So we have this new series on TeacherCast University called Google Drive in Under 5, which is just going to be a series of short videos, just like the Your Mac Show concept, of every single button in your Google Drive or your Google Docs or your Google Classroom. Everything on there is going to be screenshots, and we're going to take you through how to do things. So there's a lot of neat stuff happening as far as the educational programming. And, you know, again, being a place for teachers to help other teachers, I have educators now who are joining the network to add their podcast. We just opened up a brand new show called 30 Second Take with a great guy named Brad, who's a principal in Minnesota. And he's like, I have this great idea. Can you help me with this? And so we're working together right now to put his podcast on the educational map.
I have seen the 30 Second Take. I haven't voted yet, but I do watch every episode on Sunday night. So it is a fantastic addition to the network.
Yeah, it is. He does the whole thing on his iPad. And the whole concept is, let's take two educators and pin them against each other. And kind of cool.
It is really a fantastic concept. And it's quick, too. Now, what type of feedback do you receive from teachers who visit TeacherCast? Is it positive? Do people tell you it's no good? I mean, what's the reception been like over 3 years?
It's kind of rewarding, but they give the idea that, you know, there's so much stuff here. Thank you. And that's kind of cool. You know, I've had people call me up and say, look, I listened to one of your shows, and that's inspired me to create EdCamp in their city, which is really neat to have. I've had people, you know, email and say, look, I've tried out this app that you suggested. I'm using it in my classroom. That's a really cool app review. It's been amazingly positive, and it just kind of shows what happens when you really have a passion for something and, you know, where the boundaries are. I always tell my kids I don't believe that our classroom has boundaries. We don't have four walls. The walls are whatever you make them. And the walls for TeacherCast are endless because I do allow teachers to come on and create or whatever. I mean, the concept of somebody like Brad using TeacherCast to show off his podcast are the same exact, you know, responses as somebody like yourself, Chris, who's using TeacherCast to show off their graphic design, or Sam, who comes on and shows off his puppet work. It's a conduit for what an educator can do if they really, really have a passion for something. And in that respect, it's kind of beyond a website. It's kind of everybody's portfolio. It's kind of really a neat process to see how it's evolved over the last 3 years.
I can't disagree with you. I mean, I don't know if I was aware of TeacherCast 3 years ago, but obviously in the last, I'd say year and a half, it's something that's really, you know, made a positive impact on me as an educator. And it's something that, again, like you said, not to pat each other on the back, but that, you know, I share with colleagues and other professionals, you know, at every opportunity I can, because it is so valuable as far as the amount of content and the quality of content that's available. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Jeff, again, as if you didn't do enough, you're also involved in something that teachers might not be familiar with. And, you know, I try to promote the concept of the unconference. And you are heavily involved with EdCamp New Jersey. The floor is yours. Talk a little bit about what an unconference is and what EdCamp New Jersey is.
You know, when I first started off the TeacherCast podcast, I heard of this concept called an EdCamp. And I started to do some shows on EdCamps. And I was fortunate enough to have some guests on from the EdCamp Foundation. And then I did a show with a few people from around the country on this thing called EdCamp Social Studies, which was going to be coming to Philadelphia. And for me, this was the first EdCamp in my area. Interesting enough, we go to EdCamp Social Studies, and I run into these two other people, Dana Sorodiak and Billy Krakauer, and we just happened to be sitting at the same lunch table, and we didn't know each other. So we just started talking, and, oh, you're from New Jersey too. And we just kind of looked at each other, and I said, you know we're going to do one of these, right? And they're just like, what do you mean? So we're going to do one of these in New Jersey. Like, this has to happen. And next thing you know, we're having meetings, and we have a planning group, and we're using Linwood Middle School, which is in my school district. So that's kind of cool. And next thing I know, we have like 20 people on a planning committee, and we did the first Ed Camp New Jersey. Now, it wasn't the first Ed Camp in New Jersey. There was other things, like there's pad camps and there's some, but this was like the first big statement of here we go. And we had almost 200 people there. And then, cool. Last year we came back, we did it again. We had about 220 or so people there. And so because of the success of Ed Camp New Jersey and the fact that, you know, every Ed Camp breeds other Ed Camps, we've seen 6 now Ed Camps happening in my school district. We've seen Ed Camps springing up. We're now offering Ed Camp North Jersey, which is coming up, I believe, next calendar year. And I'm also now on the planning committee for Ed Camp South Jersey, which is happening next March in 2015. So it's kind of neat to be on the ground floor of this. I'm certainly not taking credit for anything here, but just the fact that you're putting something together that then brings together a state, and then that disperses into other professional development opportunities. It's really, really neat. And really the success of all of this comes from the unit. You know, it started off as 3 people at a table, but the next thing you know, our planning committee includes supervisors and principals and superintendents, and they're from North Jersey and South and Central, and it really is a New Jersey function that it's just amazing. It really, really was cool, and I'm looking forward to this November when we get to have Ed Camp New Jersey 3.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I attended, it was my first unconference that I attended last year. I got to meet you, you keynoted. And, you know, again, I've worked with you over the summer, and you've been gracious enough to help get me involved in the planning in some regard. So I'm looking forward to being more involved with the whole Ed Camp concept. You know, I'm looking forward to, again, as we go back to the beginning, you know, when school starts, to promote it heavily to my colleagues, and obviously talk about it here on the House of EdTech. The whole grassroots concept of professional development is really amazing.
It really is. And just to, when somebody goes and gets it, you know, I always start all of my Ed Camp sessions by giving out homework. And no educator wants to hear the word homework on a Saturday morning, but my homework assignment is very simple. Go home, get somebody else, find a friend, and come back. You know, find the next Ed Camp, but bring 2 or 3 friends. So there's a lot of pay it forward here. And so, you know, the neat part about Ed Camps is you still find about 70% of the audience is new Ed Campers, which is amazing.
That is interesting that you'd always have so many new people. And even just in my last episode, I talked about, you know, if you've never done it, find an unconference to attend in your area this year. And just like you said, bring a friend, bring another person, bring a couple people with you, you know, and then be able to turnkey that information and help grow the idea.
Absolutely. It's your information. It's your education. It's your opportunity for you to go learn what you want to do. There's a theme here. And if you don't like it, the rule of 2 feet says get up and go to the next room. And if you don't like that, get up and go to the next room. And if you don't like that, start your own session. It's not a presentation. We don't like PowerPoints. Just go into the cafeteria or go into the hallway and talk to somebody. That is Ed Camp.
Fantastic, Jeff. Thank you for coming onto the House of EdTech. And before I let you go, obviously besides teachercast.net, what are the ways that my listeners can reach out to you and pick your brain about so many different things?
Well, you know, we have this great email called feedback@teachercast.net, and people were asking for a feedback line, so we put that together. But you can, of course, find us on Twitter @teachercast. And then, you know, for our other channels, I make it really, really easy. teachercast.net/Twitter/Facebook/iTunes/whatever. If you're out there and you're listening to this on your mobile device, please check out teachercast.net/app. We just completely re-updated our Android and our iOS apps.
There's no doubt in my mind that I'll have you on the podcast again, and I look forward to doing more work with you and obviously continuing to be a contributor to the Tech Educator podcast, Sunday nights at 7 on teachercast.tv. Thank you so much, Mr. Bradbury.
Thank you, and keep going on. I love your podcast. I love the guests that you're getting. And I promise that as soon as the Edu triplets start to talk, you have permission to interview them.
And now for my EdTech thought, titled, Happy New School Year. With the start of every new school year, you come to school and you're inspired and you're ready to, in a sense, attack your job. Obviously in a positive way. And that's important. But from time to time, maybe you're not ready to start the school year. Maybe you need a little bit of a pep talk. Now, I'm not an inspiring NFL or college coach, and I'm not even going to try to do this on my own. So what I'd like to do is share Kid President's pep talk for teachers and students. Kid President believes we're all teachers and we're all students. And Kid President wants to know, what are you teaching the world? Who are you learning from? You are all special teachers, so I'd like to share this with you. Take it away, Kid President.
It's time to wake up, people. This one goes out to teachers and students. It's time to get our learn on. And we got a lot to learn, too. I don't know it all, but I know a few things. Science. You hear? You take up space, you matter. It's just science, man. Don't be a bully. Don't even be a bully to the bullies. It just makes more bullies. We can all be awful sometimes. We can all also be awesome. It's time to be more awesome. And that's what it's time for. History. We gotta study it so we don't repeat it. But if history does repeat itself, then I'm gonna name my pet dinosaur Reginald. I just hope he doesn't eat me. We can't just study history. We gotta make history. And history's made by ordinary people. Ordinary people like you and me. And that guy. The world's greatest thinkers. Confucius, Albert Einstein, Justin Timberlake. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like me. But I put my pants on one leg at a time while I'm dancing. You can go by. Yeah. You're gonna be in the video though. Life's a school, and you gotta show up. You can't just sleep in. You can't be late. And you can't just hang out in the bathroom, that's gross. It's like what Whitman said, YOLO. Except he didn't say that, but you would know that if you would read a book, baby. Seriously, read a book, any book except the vampire ones. You wanna change the world? You gotta know about it. What if Shakespeare didn't go to school? His plays would be even more confusing. To be or not to be? Is that the question? I don't know what a question is. I didn't go to school. Anybody? Help me out here. I got a question for you. What are you teaching the world? How to be boring? How to make the world sad? No, you're not. We're teaching the world what it looks like to be awesome. No matter who you are, somebody's learning from you. Everybody's a teacher and everybody's a student. Look for the awesome. Teachers see things. They see when you're running down the hall. They see when you're passing notes. But they also see the person that we can all become someday. A writer or a speaker or Martin Luther King. Teachers, keep teaching. Students, keep studenting. That's not a word. Sorry about that. Here's the teachers that see the awesome. The homework is this. What do you want to teach the world? Do it. Let's make some history together because it's simple math. Together, we're better. Those girls are a little too loud. Is there a teacher who inspires you? Let them know. This is for teachers everywhere, so share it with them. We gotta make the world awesome. Somebody's learning from you. I'm out. Get to learn on. We're making history. I'm gone.
Awesome.
Keep learning, people.
Thank you again to Kid President. You will be able to also find the video of this pep talk in the show notes for this episode. And now, let's head over to my EdTech recommendation. My EdTech recommendation for this episode is a really great presentation tool called eMaze. E-M-A-Z-E. eMaze is the next generation of online presentation tools, empowering you to create an amazing impression through design and technology. All you need to do is choose one of their templates and begin creating an amazing presentation, because there is no second chance to make a first impression. So head on over to emaze.com and check out this awesome web-based presentation tool. I've also included a video from eMaze in the show notes for this episode. That's my EdTech recommendation. And now let's meet this episode's House of EdTech VIP. I'd like to introduce you to Miss Meredith Martin. Meredith Martin is an elementary school teacher with over 15 years of teaching experience. She has taught first grade and currently teaches technology in the Mantua Township School District right here in New Jersey. Miss Martin is a passionate teacher with a love of education technology. In addition to her teaching duties, she has also organized several after-school clubs for students, including iPad video production and computer programming. Meredith is a Google certified teacher and a Google Apps qualified individual. While her first love is teaching children, she has also discovered a passion for teaching other educators and has presented at many state-level conferences. She has also been a member of the planning committee for several educational conferences, including St. Hacktrix Day, EdCamp STEAM, and EdCamp Philly. She is also a contracted presenter with BER and presents nationally at educational seminars. I 100% encourage you to connect with Meredith. On Twitter, she's GeekyTeach, GeekyTeach. Her email is mmartin@techforteachers.com, and her website is techforteachers.com. I've had the privilege of meeting Meredith personally a number of times right here in New Jersey, first at EdCamp New Jersey, and again at the Teach Meet NJ function earlier in August 2014. She's a fantastic individual, and she's really personable, so reach out to her on Twitter, and you can definitely learn a lot from Meredith. Congratulations! You are the House of EdTech VIP. Well, folks, that's going to do it for not only this episode of the House of EdTech, but also for my summer vacation. I am back to school on September 2nd. And, well, here we go, another school year. So once again, I am Christopher Nessie. Please keep the conversation going and visit my website, mr.chrisnessie.com. Over there, you can check out the show notes for this episode at mr.chrisnessie.com/2014/houseofedtech18.html. If you have questions or comments, I welcome your feedback. Leave a comment on the show notes for this episode, or you can click the SpeakPipe button on my website, or call the House of EdTech hotline at 732-903-4869. And you can also use the email for the show, which is feedback@chrisnessie.com, or send me a tweet. I'm Mr. Nessie on Twitter, MRNESI, and just use the hashtag House of EdTech. You can also connect with me on Voxer, and my username is cnessie4602. If you enjoyed the show, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast on iTunes. Your 5-star rating and positive review will help keep the House of EdTech front and center for others to discover and enjoy. I'd like to give a special thank you to both Anthony and Nate for your recent reviews in iTunes. I really appreciate it, and thank you for taking the time. And for everybody, be sure to come back to the house for the first episode of the new school year, which I will release on September 14th, 2014. Once again, I hope you have enjoyed your summer vacation, and that the start of your new school year goes great. Thank you for listening, and remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try.